GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This here is episode 145.
Episode 145, people. Happy New Year! Woo!
Happy New Year is correct. It's the first episode on the...
Yeah, boy! Yeah, boy! Bringing that from the JC Money Show here, yeah.
It's the first episode in the new year, on the first day of the new year. It's the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. I am Ryan Wolfe, joined by John Cimino. As always, you can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, gearnetwork.com, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date on the latest podcast. John, we talked off air quick, but Happy New Year on air.
Yes, happy on-air New Year to you too, my friend. Dude, we are literally on the precipice of the 10-year anniversary of Gear Network already. Can you believe that?
I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right? That's what they tell me.
Indeed. And for those listening here, I invite you to join us. It may not be on the Trust. I may just put it on all the feeds, honestly. But I am planning on doing a Gear 10 podcast in March, just kind of going over it will be adult rated. So y'all, yeah, if you're into the PG stuff, you're not going to want to listen to that one. But if you are, having a good time, and want to hear a bunch of friends just ramble about 10 years of podcasting, come in March.
I'm all there for it. I'm very excited about that. Cause when you get the group together, it's bad. It's very bad, but in the best way. It's
great because you do this so well, Ryan, especially when Lewis and I are together on a podcast. You keep the straight and narrow going, while Lewis and I just squirrel off into all sorts of things. You could be like, oh, the Buffalo Bills are playing for the division on week 18. And Lewis and I will be like, yeah, but then did you see this one guy that farted on this? And but this girl over here was like this and whatever. And what does that have to do with the Bills?
You'd say, no. Remember last week when they had the fart taint play? We forgot to talk about it on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That's when Lewis would be like, back in the day when I was in Orlando, I said someone had farted on a taint. It happened. I remember it was like 25 years ago. And we would just be like, I'd be like, well, anyways, moving on.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Well, hey, Buffalo gets themselves into the once unlikely, once potentially impossible, what seemed like scenario of winning and getting in with the AFC East division crown. Man,
hey, listen, it's just like those NFL script writers wrote it, man.
I mean, at one point, I'm just going to pop it up here because I did not have it written down, but we'll just look at the schedule really quick. Let's see here. Buffalo was 6-6 on November 26th. The Dolphins moved to 8-3 on that day. Now at this point, Buffalo 10-6, Miami 11-5, playing for it all in Week 18. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes here. But John, Buffalo defeats New England. Task at hand, 27-21. They improved to 10-6 on the season. Improve also to a league best 18-2 in December and January regular season games since 2020. Buffalo has won 13 straight December and January games. The last loss came on December 12th, 2021 at Tampa Bay, which was in overtime. Buffalo's fifth consecutive season with double-digit wins, the longest streak in team history. I don't really want to say nice things about Sean McDermott because, again, I still think he his flaws have been certainly highlighted, revealed, underlined.
Listen, you say that, but his stat numbers don't lie, man.
That's where I'm getting to, man.
4-0 since he went Allah Akbar on everybody.
Well, since it was revealed that
since it was revealed he was Allah Akbar.
Yeah, once he turned heel, everyone was like, "Oh boy!" The team rallied around him. I'm not even going to make a joke because it's
crazy
right
how
there.
That works.
Yeah, but they needed a shot in the arm, and they got a shot in the arm, and they have run with it, and then some. But John, I want to move right over to our three big things here. We got a lot to talk about today. Our three big things brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all your National Hockey League sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Do not worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, though, puckluck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League, its teams, or the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Now, John, going into the game on Sunday, if you had told me that Josh Allen would have struggled as bad as he did throwing the ball, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I mean, he ended up 15 for 30, which is very uncharacteristic, 169 passing yards, an interception, which I believe they said on the broadcast he had, I think it was 23 straight games with a touchdown pass. That has since been broken. But he did have 11 carries for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, before I jump into all the stats here, I don't know if it was just an off day for Josh Allen or what was going on, but he just did not have – it's kind of like when a pitcher the best way to explain it to me would be like when a pitcher goes out and just doesn't have – doesn't have a good feel of the ball, doesn't have a good grip of the ball, just everything he tries isn't working. And that's kind of what it seemed to be on Sunday, was that Josh Allen just couldn't get into a rhythm, but also when he started to kind of get going, just didn't seem comfortable at the quarterback position yesterday.
Well, he seemed to, kind of go back to how he performed a little bit 2 weeks prior when he was playing against the Washington football team, where he seemed to kind of have some struggles going there too. That said, with this offense, the way that it's been tailored or put together by Joe Brady, he's not really needed to be superhuman Josh Allen, as it's been well documented here. The running game has stepped up tremendously to be able to help alleviate the pressure off of him. And honestly, all kidding aside, probably a good thing he got it out of the way now, because the next game against the Dolphins is going to be a very, very big game. And if Josh Allen can play even if he plays like this and the team plays around him, they got a good chance to win. But if Josh Allen can rebound and match his team's energy, I think they're going to run away with it. So, you can't win them all. You can't get them all. The consecutive game touchdown streak ending at 23 games, I think you said.
Yep.
That's still impressive. He's kept this team afloat. He's done enough to get them to this point, and now that the team's rallying kind of around him and helping him win in spite of his struggles, I think, I'm catching good vibes here from them. It sucks that he played the way he did, but yeah, hopefully he'll show up when it counts next week.
And I mean, at the end of the day, again, before we break down these stats, because he still did some historical things on Sunday, as always. At the end of the day, you just look at it. It almost seems like the Buffalo Bills are.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I said the Washington football team. I meant the Dallas football team.
Yes, ago. But again, you don't need to in games like that. I mean, I even looked at the Washington game. Throw for 218 yards, 1 touch, 1 pick, and a 37-3 win. I mean, that was still a good callback.
Yeah,
that was still where you're like, he's only had this season. Josh Allen, has only had 1, 2, 3 games with 300 plus passing yards.
Yeah, again, no 400-yard games this year.
You just do what you need to do to win. And this year has been a very weird season in terms of quarterbacking in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. I mean, Josh Allen threw another pick, as we mentioned. He's got 16 on the season now, which I believe, if I'm gathering this information correctly, is a new career high for Josh Allen in terms of interceptions. But in terms of a career high, I mean, again, he has doubled his output, or almost doubled his output of the next best season in terms of rushing touchdowns. This year he has 15. His next best, he ran for 9 in 2019. So 1 game left to go. He still has the opportunity to do some special stuff, which he has. But John, end of the day, what do we always say? What have we said for the last, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks? Just win, baby. Doesn't matter how you do it. Just win.
I'm actually looking for something right now on the soundboard here.
You do what you got to do, because I got a bunch of stuff to run.
You keep going, but yes, just win, baby.
Again, John, since losing 3 of 4, or really 1, 2, 3, 4 of.
Oh wait, found it.
Win the game.
Damn it. Let's try it again.
You play to win the game.
I love it. I appreciate that. After starting 3-1, the Buffalo Bills then go loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss. So at that point, they are 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3, 5-5. Duh. Math is hard. I'm sorry, guys. So they're 5-5, and then since then they've gone 5-1. They beat the Jets, lost to the Eagles in overtime. They probably should have won that game. Beat the Chiefs, beat the Cowboys, beat the Chargers, beat the Patriots, and now it doesn't matter how you win. It just matters that you win.
It matters that you win. They made the adjustments that they need. They made the tweaks that they need. They had the things that they need. You're absolutely right. I do think the Bills should have beaten the Eagles that week, and they should be riding a 6-game win streak. But that's just beyond me. I don't think I don't think there will be a rematch this year between the two. To be perfectly honest.
And again, it'll be something that we can discuss either. I would hope after the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl, but if that doesn't happen, there will at least be, no matter what happens with the season, there's going to be a conversation that needs to be had regarding how the Buffalo Bills turn this season around, because it was a myriad of different things, but
they were 14% chance of not making the playoffs at all, of making the playoffs at all. Like they were left for dead.
You're spoiling the podcast where we've got a lot of. I'll promise you, we got a lot of stuff like that. That's one thing I'm going to bring up later in the podcast, because again, I don't remember the last time with any team we've seen a run like this.
Yeah, it's quite the run.
So get this. Speaking of running, tying it back, Josh Allen had 2 touchdowns rushing on Sunday. That's his 14th and 15th rushing touchdowns of the season, moving him into sole possession of second place on the team's single-season rushing touchdown list. Allen now trails only O.J. Simpson for most rushing touchdowns in a season by a Bill. O.J. had 16 in 1975. You have to think now with essentially Josh Allen being the touchdown vulture of James Cook, if they get down in that red area or in that, I don't know if if it's like the red area, the red zone from the 20 in, if there's like a sub red or like a double red from the 5 in, but from the 5-yard in, they did it a bunch of times yesterday, or twice at least yesterday, where they're like, I believe the Buffalo Bills official Twitter account dubbed it this. If it was someone else, let me know. I apologize. I can't remember, but it's now called in Buffalo, in Indiana, or not in Indianapolis, Philadelphia, it's the brotherly shove. In Buffalo, it's the buffa shove, and it's more like a train. Shove. Yeah, because now you've got essentially, if you watch back on both touchdowns,
Lord, who's in charge of naming these things?
Go look back on the play. You've got Latavius Murray, big boy, dog, bowling ball, whatever you want to call him. That man runs downhill violently. He has Josh Allen's essentially hands on Josh Allen's hips, like they're at a high school dance, and he is just grabbing him and pushing him as hard as he possibly can. That's a whole lot of man right there. If we're trying to keep it PG, that's a whole lot of man right there coming at you. But Josh Allen, John.
That's a whole lot of ass.
That's a whole lot of ass right there. That is correct. Josh Allen became the first Bill with multiple rushing touchdowns in back-to-back games since Willis McGahee did it in 2004, and Josh Allen becomes the first ever Bills quarterback to have multiple rushing touchdowns in back-to-back games in franchise history. Allen became the third quarterback in NFL history with 14-plus rushing touchdowns in a season, and the second quarterback in NFL history to rush for 15 in a season, tying Jalen Hurts this season for most rushing touchdowns all time by a quarterback at 15. You have to think they're going to try to get that record on Sunday. It's the 5th straight game with a rushing touchdown for Josh Allen. He became the 4th quarterback in NFL history to record such a streak, joining Justin Fields, who had 6 straight games in 2022. Cam Newton had 5 straight in 2021. Kyler Murray had 5 straight in 2020, and Joshua Dobbs had 5 straight games this season. Allen is the first Bills quarterback with consecutive multi-rushing touchdown games, and the 6th Bill with at least 9 career multi-rushing touchdown games, tying Jim Braxton for 5th all-time in franchise history. Fun stat of the week here for you, John. Josh Allen right now, as of recording time, tied with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman for 79th all-time with 165 passing touchdowns, but also sits 73rd all-time with Chuck Foreman and Marion Barber with 53 rushing touchdowns. Allen has one more career rushing touchdown than San Francisco 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey and one less rushing touchdown than New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Pretty wild stat, if you ask me.
Absolutely, very wild stat there. Again, when you start getting into the upper echelon there, you start getting records or you're competing with names that are in the Hall of Fame. Like at some point, like. And I truly feel this, whether Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl or not with the Buffalo Bills, he's certainly going to be in that Hall of Fame conversation, I think, when he's done, just because of the superhuman stuff that he does opposite that. Like, and you start getting these names and you start talking about all-time lists and things like that. We're witnessing some kind of greatness here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, I'm looking up a couple stats here.
Well, while you look up those stats, I found the play, the tush push for a touchdown from Josh Allen. I'd like to hear it. Here it goes.
Allen under center, and it's going to run it over the left side, and he plows his way into the end zone. No signal yet, but now, yes, it is touchdown Buffalo. A 1-yard touchdown run by Josh Allen.
And that sure was indeed a lot of meat there behind the line there.
A lot of shoving.
It did not. It was certainly a lot of shoving. It didn't look exactly like the brotherly shove, where it seems like the brotherly shove is, as weird as this might sound for a play like this, somewhat like organized. Like this just looked like Latavius Murray got behind Josh Allen and just said, fuck it. They all just pushed and flopped. But that was the play. And again, Ryan, I must say, I love the fact that we have the soundboard ability for the podcast here to be able to do things like this. It's so great.
Big fan of it. I love that so much. So right now, Josh Allen is at 160. What did I say? 165 and 50. 53. Cam Newton retired. Well, did he retire? But Cam Newton has 194 career passing touchdowns and 75 career rushing touchdowns. So again, moving on up there, Jalen Hurts only has 67 career passing touchdowns, so we'll get to that conversation at some point in time, not today. Josh did leave the game in the final drive with a stinger. He did confirm post-game that he's expected to be okay. Quarterback Kyle Allen ran the final 2 kneel downs to close out the victory.
Yeah,
Josh said,
I did see that, and I was like, ooh, like you could tell, like immediately he was like, oh, damn, that didn't feel good.
And I think the reaction was confirmed. Simply, Josh said post-game, quote, yeah, it was a little stinger. I've never felt one of those before, so it's a little funky, but we're good to go. That would be my guess as to why he responded the way he did, just simply because you're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, that, and it's not, I don't want to make any big deal about it. It was a clean hit. It wasn't a bad hit. It just was one of those things where, football's a violent game. These things happen. Fortunately, he's okay. And he's good to go. But yeah, I felt that. Like I kind of winced when I saw it too. It was like, ooh, man, like I don't blame him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that one. It did not look like it felt great, but I digress. He will be okay. He will be ready to go on Sunday night. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs, another quiet day, John. 4 receptions on 7 targets for 26 yards. He did eclipse the 100 reception mark on the season, finished the game with 100 receptions. At this point in time. It's his 10th straight game, though, without 100-plus receiving yards, which is his longest stretch as a member of the Buffalo Bills. He's played less than 80% of offensive snaps for the 4th straight game. Again, he played 31 against Dallas, 33 against the Chargers, 45 against New England yesterday. Howard Simon, formerly of WGR, pointed out on Twitter, quote, first 9 games, 7 touchdowns, averaging 92 yards a game and 11.9 yards per catch. The last 7 games, he's had 1 touchdown, averaged 37 yards a game and 8.7 yards per catch. In conversations with some friends over on my end, trying to figure out, is he hurt? Is he just not being used? What is the situation? There was a good point made that potentially, because again, Gabe Davis played over 90% of the snaps and Khalil Shakir played over 80% of the snaps, that maybe when Josh Allen, maybe when they're going to run the ball or they're in a run first package, they like having Gabe Davis out there simply because, as mentioned earlier in the year, when Gabe Davis was not catching a ball and everyone's like, this guy's a scrub. And then, and then you get Joe Brady coming out saying, look, he's a great run blocker. Look at what he's doing for James Cook. Maybe that's the situation where that's happening. I don't know yet. I mean, it's all possible, but it definitely looks to me as if at some point in time, maybe Stephon Diggs picked something up and is just not 100%. Or maybe it's a thing where he's not 100% and they're just trying to get him as healthy as possible for the playoffs. That could be a thing too. Again, I'm completely speculating at this point, but trying to find something out is very difficult.
I get it. And to me, I'm kind of playing the speculation game too. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And if there's even a small inkling that there is something wrong injury wise, there's, I would kind of go with that. Steph Diggs is Steph Diggs. We all know, like he's a dog, a full-fledged dog. Like, I don't
crank that up. The dog was a little quiet. We got to get a loud dog.
Let's try that one. Steph Diggs is a dog. There we go. And like, it seems just, I don't want to say sudden because it's been a few weeks, but it certainly was sudden from the last week where he was the focal point of Josh Allen's offense to where he is now, kind of not being as big of a factor. I have to believe with a player like that, injuries got to be the thing, because I can't imagine every single defense zoning in on him every single week solely, limiting him to that much. Like, something's got to be up.
Here's the thing too. He might not be 100%, but also I pointed out on Twitter here, minimum 5 targets, the yards per route run leader since Joe Brady took over. Stephon Diggs is at 1.3 yards per route run. So they have him running a lot of screens. We've seen that. I'd love for him to not do that all the time.
Right.
Excuse me. Because again, it's so strange to me, because you see Diggs catch a screen yesterday, and then he's dancing around trying to make something happen. So it's like, well, hey, does he have a mid-body injury, a lower body injury? Did he tweak something? Is something not right? Or are they literally trying to just get him into open space, and they can't because teams are sitting on the fact that he's running screens all the time and that's all he's doing? Like, it really seems to me like a lot of the time he is a decoy out there. And the thing too, that again, I know it's the media's job to ask these questions, and there was a little bit of rumblings regarding Stephon Diggs' health either last week or the week before, where you'd think to yourself, okay, is he okay? Is everything fine? And they said, nothing that we heard of. There's nothing wrong with him that we are aware of, and he's not on the injury report. So again, it could just be managing the mileage. I don't know, but either way, the one thing I do want to point out, Stephon Diggs surpassed 800 career receptions yesterday, becoming the youngest player at 30 years and 32 days in NFL history to do so. That's
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely impressive. The dude, flat out, like I said, I don't care what certain members of the mafia say about him being a prima donna. I don't care. Steph Diggs, my man. I am buying a bootleg ass jersey of yours off of Temu, and you, my friend, are a dog.
Maybe it'll just come 14 with the dog on the back of it. Who knows?
It says it. So these Temu jerseys, because I saw they have them now. It's like for everybody. There's a Josh Allen one. There's a Steph Diggs one. They have an Aaron Rodgers one, Zach Wilson one, Sauce Gardner. They basically have all the name players from like each team, and what they do. I'll have to share it with you, but basically it's like the blue, it's the blue colored Buffalo Bills jersey. But do you know, like, kind of where the collar kind of comes in the middle? There's normally an NFL shield there. There is no NFL shield there. And then beneath that, where kind of like above the chest, it usually has like the scroll of the team. So you'll see either Bills or New York across the chest or whatever, right? For like whatever team. That is not there either, but it is the same color scheme. It's the number, and it does have the name on the back of the jersey. I, in fact, purchased for literally like $2 a bootleg ass North Carolina 23 Michael Jordan jersey. And Ryan, I am almost ashamed to admit it actually like is not bad looking.
That's impressive. It's impressive.
It's great. Temu, man. It's crazy.
Temu's interesting. I don't know, man. Putting a bow on the O. Tight end Dalton Kincaid finished the game 4 receptions on 7 targets, 87 yards in total. His 66 receptions on the season set a new franchise record for most receptions by a rookie, surpassing wide receiver Sammy Watkins, who had 65 in 2014.
He's got to be in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I think his name will get mentioned. I don't know who the other candidates are, but let me see here. Offensive.
See if I can try and find that.
Rookie of the Year odds. There we go. Let's see. Right now, according to sportsbettingdime.com, top 5 NFL offensive rookie. Oh, no, there's no way he's going to be in the conversation.
No.
CJ Stroud, Puka Nacua,
okay.
Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jordan Addison, Bijan Robinson, Rasheed Rice, Jay Flowers.
It starts and stops with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, as of December 27th, according to sportsbettingdime.com, CJ Stroud is a minus 1325, Puka Nacua plus 500, Jahmyr Gibbs plus 4,000, and then so on and so forth. So,
well,
again,
at least he could be Buffalo Bills Rookie of the Year.
He will. He absolutely will.
Because that dude, we can't. No one should disqualify or. Not that anybody is throwing shade or disqualifying, whatever, but his contributions to this team have helped the Bills tremendously in this run that they're on right now. I think if he were not him, or he were a lesser talent than he is, I don't know if they're on the run that they're on right now.
Call me crazy, but his development, his progression, his addition to the offense has kind of rendered Dawson Knox useless, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, right. Like, and this sets them up like really, really, really good, because he's playing. He's playing on his rookie deal, which means when it comes time for the 5th-year option, they'll exercise that 5th-year option, and they won't have to, break the bank one more year, and then they can break the bank, especially how he is. How he develops now going into year 2, year 3, when we talked about this earlier as well. Year 3 is really when people, kids really start to kind of come into their own and break out of that shell and take that next step. Right. Yeah. And if what Kincaid is doing now is any indication, this is year 1, dude's going to get paid, but you better believe that the Buffalo Bills would exercise the 5th-year option on him if things keep going the way that they are.
I would absolutely agree with that one, John. I want to move over now to the defense here. Or actually, no, the offense. I'm sorry, we're not done with the offense. And then what we'll do, we'll take a quick commercial break after we talk about the offense to break down the defense.
Sure.
But, John, it's clear the offense needs to be better. And by better, I feel like more consistent. After the game, Josh Allen said, quote, 3 possessions down there in the first quarter. We only scored 1 touchdown. That's not good enough on our end. We got to be better prepared to go and get 6 and 7 there. We lucked out. Our defense played a heck of a game, and we just got to try. We got to just try to find a way to win. So they did find a way to win yesterday. But if that defense didn't ball out, man, I don't know how that game would have ended. I mean, I know New England has always historically played Buffalo difficult. Buffalo lost to New England earlier this year. Buffalo does have a tendency this season to play down to their opponents when they are. I mean,
see the Chargers game the week before. I mean, they really and again, credit to the Chargers a couple of weeks ago to for playing as hard as they did. But you're right, absolutely right. I feel like that was more the Bills playing down to their opponents, and again, kind of same thing. Last week, to your point, Buffalo. New England always plays Buffalo tough, even with or without Tom Brady. But that said, like I feel like this should have been a game that Buffalo could have easily, walked, and instead they kind of crawled at times.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that after the commercial break when we talk about the defense. But really, this is Buffalo's last "quote unquote" easy game of the season. Buffalo's already been in the stretch run. We know that not every victory is going to be pretty, but obviously the margin of error gets thinner and thinner as the season gets longer in the tooth. You're not going to get as lucky against the Miamis, the Baltimores, the Kansas Cities. Really, those are the scary teams in the division right now, or in the conference right now, to be completely honest, unless I missed somebody, which I probably did. But
right now,
you can't always guarantee.
Right now, Baltimore's looking scary.
Or Cleveland and Joe Flacco.
Cleveland too, like for real. Like you would think, like any other team that have gone through. I think what is Flacco is like their 3rd quarterback, right?
4th. Yeah.
So any team, look at the Minnesota Vikings, who've had equally as many starting quarterbacks this season because of injury or whatever.
Well, the difference there is simple, John. The Vikings quarterbacks, none of them are elite.
They're not elite. Joe Flacco, you know what? I couldn't be mad on Thursday's game with the Jets because obviously the Jets are out and I hate football for the rest of the year. We all know that. We all established that. I was I'm actually very happy to see Joe Flacco doing his thing this year. Like genuinely, like it's a really good story. Joe Flacco, my man, number 15 of the Cleveland Browns. You are a dog.
Hey, so with that being said, John, we're going to take a quick commercial break here. We're going to cut the podcast up a little. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Sure.
Before we get to the third of the three big things here,
I'm going to get a beer.
And we'll be back with more Trust the Podcast right after this here on the Gear Radio Network. And we're back here on Trust the Podcast, breaking down the defense, John. What a team effort on Sunday. Buffalo recorded 3 takeaways in the first quarter, becoming the first team since 2020. Atlanta versus Dallas on September 20th, 2020, with 3 first quarter takeaways. New England's 4 turnovers were the most in a first half under Bill Belichick. And get this just tells you how much the defense has gotten healthier, adjusted, and just grown as a unit. Per at yards per pass on Twitter, quote, the Bills defense is now second in the league in sack percentage and percentage of drives ending in a turnover. They are tied for 10th in yards per play and 7th in percentage of drives ending in a score. This is with the defense getting nothing from Von Miller, who was a healthy scratch on Sunday, and very little from Matt Milano, Daquan Jones, and Tre'Davious White due to injuries. One of those big reasons why, John?
Sure.
Cornerback Rasul Douglas, who since being acquired by the Buffalo Bills, he leads the NFL in takeaways with 6. He had 2 tackles, 1 solo, 3 pass deflections, one of which led to Ed Oliver's interceptions, and 2 interceptions of his own, 1 return for a touchdown. It's Douglas's 3rd career interception return for a touchdown, first since December 12th, 2021, when he was a member of the Green Bay Packers. Douglas became the first Bill to record 2 interceptions and an interception return for a touchdown since Nikel Roby-Coleman did it on October 9th, 2016 at the Los Angeles Rams. It is also the 3rd career multi-interception game of Douglas's career and the 2nd this season. And man, Douglas was all over the field on Sunday, causing absolute chaos and being a game wrecker, which again, not a bad return for the draft pick they traded for him. Buffalo may have found their long-term replacement for Tre'Davious White as well. As mentioned, in those 8 games since joining Buffalo via trade, Douglas has recorded 4 picks and 6 total takeaways, as mentioned, leading the league since he came to Buffalo. Douglas is a perfect fit, John, for this Buffalo Bills defense.
He is. And, kudos again to the entire defense, the entire defensive line, all the defensive coaches. And you got to give credit where credit's due to the devil himself, Mr. Allah Akbar, Sean McDermott. He's got them boys playing. He did not settle for mediocrity when Milano went down with the injury, when Trey went down with the injury, and all of those things. And we were talking earlier in the season about how this defense is the cause of all of those problems. The adjustments that this defensive group made from top to bottom has been absolutely amazing. And partially, I mean, I don't want to necessarily say partially, meaning like a minimal partial. I think a large part of the Bills' success this year has been how this defense has adjusted to these injuries and to all of these different scenarios that they've been placed in front of. This defense has kept them in the games, and has played well enough to allow the offense to not play from behind most of, if not all of these games. So kudos to the coaching staff and just being able to kind of navigate their way through all of the shitstorm that was the first quarter of the season.
Well, and again, it was probably a blessing in disguise that everybody got hurt when they did. Because they had the time, they being the Buffalo Bills, they had the time to continually develop, to grow, to kind of figure out exactly what their identity was. And guys like, again, Ed Oliver is playing at an all-pro level this season. He had 2 tackles on Sunday, both solo, a sack, a tackle for a loss, a pass deflection, and 2 quarterback hits. And don't forget an interception, which was his first career interception and his first since his senior year of high school at Westfield High on August 28th, 2015. Oliver is the first Buffalo defensive tackle to record an interception since Star Lotulelei recorded a pick at Dallas on Thanksgiving in 2019. Oliver's sack total was raised to 9.5 with his 1 sack on Sunday, the most by a Buffalo defensive tackle since Jordan Phillips recorded 9.5 in 2019. And since being drafted by Buffalo in 2019, Ed Oliver leads the Buffalo Bills with 24 sacks. He is I would say a dog, but I don't even think that does him justice. I mean, honestly, when he is on and he's been on for a very long time this season, if not the entire season. Don't ask Pro Football Focus though, because they seem to hate him. But Ed Oliver has the numbers don't lie. He's been kicking ass. He has been anchoring that defensive line. And now that they have Daquan Jones back, who I'll just mention this, covering the field here. Daquan Jones had 2 tackles on his return from a torn pectoral muscle, which happened October 8th, 2023 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. He played 53% of the snaps, 28 plays, which is a normal load for Jones in a game. Having those 2 anchoring that defensive line, good luck. Absolutely. Dog. I mean, AJ.
I'm just gonna dog him because I don't have anything else right now.
I don't have AJ Epinesa on this at all. But AJ Epinesa, his return, he was all over the field. Greg Rousseau, all over the field. I mean, that line right now, you've got Epinesa, Oliver Jones, and Rousseau. Good luck. And then it gets better, John. If you move to the linebacking core, Terrell Bernard, this is where the development portion of this defense has been so underrated. Terrell Bernard replacing Tremaine Edmonds, who left and went to the Bears in the offseason. He got his bag. Good for him, because that was well-deserved, just as long as it was not by the Buffalo Bills. Recorded 2 sacks. Terrell Bernard, right. Happy for you. You earned it, just as long as it doesn't.
You can eat. We want to see you eat, just not at our table.
It kind of was like when Jacoby Ellsbury signed that big deal with the New York Yankees. You're like, kind of sucks that you're leaving, but I would not pay that price. Congratulations, though. You deserve it.
Get your money. Kind of like what I don't know what Facebook memories reminded me of a post that I shared. Do you remember Matt Flynn?
Yes.
He was the longtime Packers quarterback that got that big deal from Seattle, and he just fizzled out. Matt Flynn had commented something about, some football thing or whatever. And then some internet troll tried to respond to him saying, yeah, do you remember when Seattle gave you all that money? As if to say, like, yeah, remember when Seattle gave you all that money and you fizzled out and you sucked? How dare him speak on football? And Matt Flynn's reply was, yeah, that was really cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, check out my freaking bank account, bro.
Right. So like, you can't hate a man. You can't hate a man or a woman for that matter. For breaking the bank when they can. Get it when you can, because the time is limited for that type of window.
John, Terrell Bernard was drafted in the third round, the 89th overall pick in 2022 by the Bills. He's 24 years old. 2022, he had 22 total tackles, no sacks, no picks. This year, 134 tackles in 16 games. Mind you, last year he played 16 games as well. So in 16 games this year, 134 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 3 fumbles recovered, 3 interceptions. I mean, to go further...
something in McDermott's defensive scheme is working for him. Then that Leslie Frazier's was not. Clearly.
John, I'm not just throwing numbers around here. Well, last year it was Tremaine Edmonds' job.
Yep.
It seems like Bernard was drafted with the thought of this guy will ultimately replace or play a role in replacing Tremaine Edmonds. Terrell Bernard is the first player since 1991. Eagles linebacker Seth Joyner did this. To tally a season with 6+ sacks, 3+ interceptions, and 3+ fumble recoveries. Terrell Bernard is just the 4th player, John, since 1982 to record such a season. So
that's insane. 4 players in 30 or 40 years, 41 years now, almost 42 years now. Holy crap. It's crazy. Yeah. How well these guys are playing.
His development, good for him. His development has been incredible because, again, having Ed Oliver, it's almost like there's been developments at every section of the Buffalo Bills. Getting Daquan Jones back, but having Ed Oliver take that next step on the defensive line, having AJ Epinesa go from hey, he's going to play out his contract and go somewhere else, to probably being a long-term bill, because I would presume they're going to pay him. Rousseau has arguably taken another step. Linebacker Terrell Bernard has taken a huge step. Cornerback Christian Benford is incredible as a cornerback for the Buffalo Bills. They go out and get Rasul Douglas. There's that as well. Safety has been a little bit of a disappointment with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer taking a little bit of a step back. But again, they have found new and innovative ways to get Poyer in the play where he's not always exposed as a safety, where he may have been earlier this year and kind of gotten burned. And then when healthy, Micah Hyde is still he's absolutely fantastic out of the field.
He's still Micah Hyde. He's still, and it goes to, it's a testament to how well this organization has drafted, has picked up, and stockpiled people that, with potential. We've covered that over the years too. I don't want to necessarily say embarrassment of riches, but when you have a good system in place and you have the bandwidth to be able to stockpile people that will complement that system, you really get that plug and play. Next man up mentality, and the train will just keep on. The train will just keep on moving. If it's like a machine. If a gear gets shoddy and you have to replace it, you can take that gear off, go in your little toolbox, pop a new gear in, pop a new, a new screw in or whatever, kind of screw it in, zip it in there, and then your machine keeps going. That's clearly what the Buffalo Bills have been doing. And shout out to just the organization as a whole for being able to do that, where in eras past, they may not have been able to. One injury could have completely derailed an entire season for them.
Well, and when you look at their draft history, to not go too far down a rabbit hole here, but looking at when you have a Kyer Elam, where you're like, man, I mean, he was hurt earlier this year. So again, if we knew then what we know now, probably would have been looking at him through a different lens here. But looking at a guy like, you get Kyer Elam in the first round, you're like, that sucks. But then you go out, you get James Cook in the second, Terrell Bernard in the third, even Khalil Shakir, who stepped up this year. You get him in the fifth round. You get Christian Benford in the sixth round, who is arguably, I don't want to say he's a number one, but he is definitely locked in at number two in your cornerbacks. You've got Greg Rousseau, who's taken a step from the 2021 first round draft pick. Then you get a guy like Boogie Basham, where you're like, didn't work out very well. But then you go out and get Spencer Brown in the third round, who good last year, has had a bit of a stumble this year, but still, again, you get a guy like AJ Epinesa. I mean, Zach Moss, who has had a great time with the Colts this year, but again, you go out and get
got a very young team. Yep, very young team, very good system, and it's fostering. It's continuing.
Well, hey, let me finish working where I'm working, my boy.
All right, go ahead.
So they, in that same draft in 2020, they get Dane Jackson in the seventh. Awesome. Guess who else they got?
Who else did they get?
Tyler Bass in the sixth round.
Oh boy!
And the
what did he do?
I mentioned Tyler Bass. He recorded 9 total points on Sunday, John. He improved his career total to 523 points scored with the Buffalo Bills, moving him into fourth place all-time in franchise history, surpassing Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed, who both had 522 points exactly scored with the Buffalo Bills.
Freaking insane to me.
I don't know. The thing is, I don't know what's looking at this on the surface. This is my thought process. When I look at a stat like this, I go, wow, what's more impressive to me? The fact that Tyler Bass has 523 career points, the fact that he's fourth all-time in franchise history, the fact that he passed both Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed, or the fact that Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed both scored the same amount of points for the Buffalo Bills. I think that to me, I think that last part is the most impressive part of this entire stat. Not to take anything away from Tyler Bass, I have not dove deep into the history books of the Buffalo Bills statistically. Maybe I should to find more weird stuff like this. But the fact that Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed both scored 522 points blows my mind.
That's insane to me. But I think for me, what's more insane is the fact that Tyler Bass has been able to catch up to those names this quickly. Their Bills' high-powered offense, and mind you, they've scored a lot of touchdowns, so that's a lot of extra points there. But talk about the field goals too that they made. I mean, this dude, not that you guys had a kicking problem, but he certainly is a problem solver if you did have one. And you know,
my question for you, John,
getting yourself to names like these, and he's becoming the Mason Crosby of the Buffalo Bills, if you believe it. And you know, Mason Crosby, when he was with the Packers, is up there in most points scored in Packers history. I don't know if he's number 1 or number 2, but he's one of the two.
So
and it's just kind of crazy to see, and awesome, quite frankly, to see, because it's a name you don't. Kickers are important in certain points of the game. You know, that's when people remember them. But otherwise, it's all about the quarterback, and it's all about
not to steal a gimmick from someone else, but kickers are people too.
Yep.
Andre Reed, it's also very strange too. I didn't know this. Again, I'm looking at it right now for the first time. Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas led the Buffalo Bills in scoring they still do, for players who are not kickers.
Sure.
Right now, Josh Allen is at 332 points scored. He averages 3.6 points scored per game.
Mm-hmm.
Reed and Thomas are at 522. Now, get this. Tyler Bass is scoring at a level of 8 points per game. For players who have played at least 65 games, because Antonio Williams, remember that guy, had scored 12 points in his only game with the Buffalo Bills. He played 1 game with the franchise. He technically leads the Bills with 12 points scored, but Tyler Bass, if you've played at least, so we'll say for people who have played at least 2 games with the Buffalo Bills, Tyler Bass leads all scoring at 8 points per game. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, though, looking at the points here, you've got Bass 4th all time. Excuse me. In 65 games. Up next, Scott Norwood at 108 games. He had 670 points. Mm-hmm. Ryan Lindell in 152 games, 980 points. Steve Christie, 144 games, 1,011 points. So again, at this point in time, I've been saying points a lot. At this point in time, Tyler Bass is on pace to, in 4 years, he's scored 523 points. That's pretty damn impressive.
It's impressive, and you know what? I'm there for it. Get that record, homie. Do it.
Well, I mean, at this point, if he continues at the rate he's going, sorry, my ring here. If he continues at the rate he's going, I mean, he's on average in 8 years to score more than Steve Christie. So, or in 4 more years to score more than Steve Christie.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
We'll see.
Keep it up, young blood.
Yeah. Now moving over to our third of the 3 big things here, John. Wrapping up Week 16 around the NFL, brought to you by Go Frost Yourself.
And I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach with this one. I'm going to see if I can nail it down in 1 minute and 1 second. Here we go.
The Bills make me want.
Around the NFL, brought to you by Go Frost Yourself. Located in Rochester, New York, Go Frost Yourself does what other local bakeries do not. They make scratch-feeding recipes themselves, using the best fresh ingredients they can find to create delicious flavors for customers daily. Molly and Jen. Hi, Molly. Hi, Jen. Yeah. Have worked tirelessly to create what Go Frost Yourself has become today, and their passion can be tasted in the items that they bake. If you find yourself looking for an item for a special occasion or a playoff berth, division winning, right? Maybe. Wink, wink. Nom, nom. Maybe you want to try their incredible cinnamon rolls. If you are local, you can visit storefront at 2544 Ridgeland Avenue or at GoFrostYourself.what? GoFrostYourself.what? GoFrostYourself.com. We might as well let it finish. Boom.
I think that the audio kind of you're in and out, but it was brilliant. What? I like the effort. The effort. Hopefully we can edit that in post here, but that was really good.
God damn it. That better have worked. I swear to God, if it didn't work, I will be so mad at you, soundboard. I will replace you with a bigger one.
That's what she said. The Detroit Lions, John, the Detroit Lions, there's a song that gave me the perfect title for this next segment, Dicked Down in Dallas.
Jesus.
The Detroit, it's a great song. You should check it out. The Detroit Lions flat out, John, got screwed on Saturday night.
Oh my God, did they?
Taylor Decker, number 68, reported eligible. The ref said number 70, Dan Skipper, was the one who actually reported eligible. Everyone on the field, players and coaches, confirmed 68 did report eligible. The ref said there was no confirmation from 68, yet 70 was the one that he said reported eligible. So what happened here, Detroit Lions scored a touchdown to be down by 1. Dan Campbell, nothing to lose, everything to gain, decides, let's go for 2. Let's win the game. Goff throws to Taylor Decker for a go-ahead 2-point conversion, but was called back for illegal touching. Head coach Dan Campbell said he spoke with refs pregame to break down the same play to confirm everyone was on the same page, which is normal behavior from head coaches. We're learning a lot this season, by the way, John, because the referees have, well, frankly, been dog shit. We're learning a lot more about how games are called, whether guys are on the line looking at the refs, they're paying attention to more about where the hands are, where the helmets are, where the balls are. And this is something I never would have thought about prior to the season. Yeah. But now that it's been kind of it's canon at this point to talk about what exactly is happening. And it sounds like the refs screwed up.
Yeah. And you know what? I like that because it's finally placing the accountability, not the whataboutisms. Well, maybe the ref should have done it. No, it's finally beginning to place accountability in the court of public opinion with like some actual like, yo, like you guys are fucking up.
John,
on the referees.
The thing I always tell you is you never put yourself in that position then. But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Like if you lose on a game, we missed the potential game winning field goal, whatever. Don't put yourself in that position to lose then. Okay. But
right. Exactly.
Detroit put themselves in the right position to win, called the right play, executed the play, and won the game. And then the ref said, no, wait, that's not it. But here's the thing too. The refs also missed a tripping penalty on Dallas. Well, they called it on Dallas, but it was actually a trip on Detroit, which allowed the drive to continue. So again, very poorly refereed game, which is like the constant of the season this year in the National Football League. I really think, again, to restore the faith, you have to hire full-time referees. The NFL will not do that.
I don't understand why they will not. It's such a simple fix. It's such a simple fix. Then the NFL can dedicate time to train these referees the way that they want the game to be played.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing, too.
Because
I don't understand.
Because what's a catch? What's a this? What's a that? What's a this? It's always something, right? Referees want to get their fix in. Guess what? The XFL and the USFL have merged to become the UFL. So they've got spring leagues. If you want to get your reps in, get your reps in. If you want to be a ref there, get your reps in. But the NFL needs to do something to kind of combat this because there's too many eyes on product. There's too many camera angles. There's a lot of time being wasted, and none of that is the fault of the players. To be perfectly honest with you,
there needs to be an eye in the sky. I go back akin to hockey where if hey, a puck goes off the pipe and you're like, was that a goal? Was that not a goal? Okay, we're going to keep going. And then Toronto, where the headquarters are, they'll buzz in and say, hey, blow the whistle. That was a goal, or go back and look at this.
Well,
now, that will lead to a bigger conversation.
They do have that in New York for the NFL, but it doesn't work to the magnitude or doesn't work to the fluidity that it may for the NHL with the Toronto.
Well, I'm saying they need to have they need to have people at every game.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's
like they need an eye in the sky watching, like a third party that's watching the calls saying like, okay, you get the referees together where they'll say, oh, that was intentional grounding. Was that intentional grounding? Then they'll go, oh, yep, intentional grounding. That's when you can have the people upstairs call in and say, hey, look, this is what I saw from here. No, he was in. Yes, he was out, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Because again, you need some more consistency. You need some more accountability. And right now with the National Football League not having full-time professional referees, there's no accountability. What are they going to do, John? They're going to downgrade this staff that's already had multiple bad calls per game this season. They're just going to downgrade them so they don't get important games. So what?
Well, I feel they should do. They should honestly do what the XFL did or does, or maybe they'll do again in the UFL, which is all of those kinds of plays, scorings, turnovers, all of that immediately like reviewed, like no matter what. That used to happen, and nobody watched it. Nobody knew because nobody watched spring football. But that happened in a couple of games that I happened to watch while I was intoxicated, enjoying the summertime, enjoying nice weather, where there was a call on the field that shouldn't have been, and then they called immediately down and were like, "Yo, stop! No, this is what happened."
The best part about this play is that 68 Taylor Decker was uncovered on the line, which means that he would have had to have ruled himself eligible, or that would have been a flag right there, I believe, for illegal formation. Because the right tackle, Dan Skipper, who reportedly was the one that said he was eligible, was covered on the line. So he would not have to report covered. So it's kind of like the referee showed his own ass, and like, as you ask your kids, hey, did you do this? And then as they start to explain it to you, they're like, oh shit, yeah, I did, my bad. The referee's just covering his ass at this point, which it's a bad look because, John, this is going to have big effects on the playoff race.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia lost on Sunday. Dallas is now playing for the NFC East and the 2 seed against Washington on Sunday, which we've seen. Dallas at home, hard to beat them, clearly,
exactly.
as you can see. But on the road, awful. So again,
exactly.
this could have an effect across the board.
Absolutely. It absolutely could, for that exact reason. And that, to me, for lack of better terminology here, is bullshit. Like the fact that the game, that kind of game that had those implications and meant that much is now, controversial because of the refereeing. Again, it's the biggest problem we've had in the NFL all year, besides the injuries to the quarterbacks going to the Achilles factory.
It's something where Roger Goodell could step in, John, and investigate it and then overturn the game.
I don't think he will.
That would be I was going to say, John, that would be incredibly unprecedented, and it's just literally going to be, don't do it again. Okay, just don't do it again.
Right. Yeah, but that's what happens every single time. And at some point, I know the NFL prints money, and I know we can't live without our football, apparently, right? But at some point, like, when everybody says the NFL script writers or whatever thing, they don't literally mean people are sitting there writing a script and scripting out the entire game. But this type of stuff feeds that narrative. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, does the NFL want them to win? Like, there's been a clear problem identified, and yet nothing gets done about it. And being a leader in a Fortune 500 business, in the real life, like if a problem is identified and I don't, as a leader, do what I need to do to solve that problem and develop my team around me or whatever to solve that problem, guess what happens? I'm gone. I'm voted out.
Let me tell you my favorite, one of my favorite word cliches here, John.
Sure.
This is one of my favorite things I tell my team all the time. Doing nothing is still doing something. If you choose to not take this and say, look, we've been playing with fire for too long, we have to do something this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
100%.
Because again, as we're talking about this, I'm remembering there was a call in the Super Bowl last year that was very questionable that ended up helping the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So again, we've seen this at the highest level with the best referees in the game, and nothing has been done about it aside from public shaming and a slap on the wrist. Because again,
absolutely,
it's there. It's going to be the ref's word versus, like, do we have to have every conversation between the referee and the player? Because that's the other thing too that kind of chaps my ass too, is like, clearly Detroit had this planned. They wanted to do something like this, but what are they supposed to do? Go to Dallas and say, "Hey, we're going to throw it to Decker."
Right, exactly.
Because the reason why they were being so hush hush about it was they wanted to create the level of uncertainty. So the referee who clearly looked at Taylor Decker, talked to him, and then when Dan Skipper was running up, the referee was walking away. So it's like, how did he even talk to you? Well, nothing makes sense of what you're saying.
You know, it is honestly, the NFL doesn't face the same issues that or competition wise that, let's just say, professional wrestling does, right? Professional wrestling has WWE and AEW, right? Among other little ones. Like, I'm not going to, discredit any of those, but the two mainstream ones are that, right? And when WWE, for all my wrestling people here, was the only show in town, I would argue they would do, brain dead things kind of like this as far as their storyline is concerned, or what they were putting on the product. And regardless of how fans felt about it, the optic was, what are they going to do? There's nothing else to turn to. Like, we're the monopoly here. Then AEW comes, blows everything out of the water into 2018, 2019, 2020, right? Starts changing the game a little bit to getting WWE to say, oh crap, the audience is shifting. We maybe should start listening to them. Now they're starting to listen to them. And now you see kind of where things are. The NFL is the only show in town. You can't, it's not competing with college football. It's just not, right? College football is not a comparison. It's a completely different league, completely different format, completely different vibe. But if there were a viable alternative that were on a minimum an equivalent level or close to an equivalent level of the NFL in terms of, being able to make a living, television ratings, things like that. None of this shit would be happening in the NFL because another league would be like, yeah, we won't do that shit here. We'll listen to it here. You all want to start coming playing for us and that, but the NFL doesn't have that. They don't have that proverbial light in the fire. They know they print money. They know they're the only show in town. So they can kind of lollygag with things like this for as long as it takes. And the only way there's going to be any meaningful change in the National Football League, whether it's the referees, whether it's the overtime, whether it's whatever, right? The only way that there's going to be any meaningful change is if the fans stop paying attention. If they alienate their fans enough to the point where they turn the channel during the game, they don't spend money on NFLshop.com, they're not paying extreme amounts of money for a ticket to a football game, because the teams are doing well. Go to a Patriots Falcons game, that's $4 a ticket. Go to the Bills Dolphins game next week, guess how much that is, right? It's all money, and it's all the monopoly there. And I don't mean to sound like old man on campus going on a ramble here, but that's what it boils down to. We're never going to see any sort of change for the better when it comes to things like this with the National Football League until either the wallet is impacted or there's viable competition that says, yes, screw you, we're going to listen to them and we'll do that on our product.
I was waiting for you to throw a MAGA baby in there, but you got deep down that rabbit hole, man. I don't know.
No, man, but but tell me I'm wrong.
I'm messing. No, you're right. I'm messing with you. I mean, it's somebody has to be willing to take the egg on the face and say, look, and
it will never be Roger Goodell.
Our bad. And that's the problem. It will never be Roger Goodell. The PA would have to go after this. And I don't know that that's a viable, they've got bigger fish to fry. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
Moving over to the other thing I want to talk about here, Lamar Jackson, the 2-time MVP with a question mark. Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson appears to have put his stamp on the MVP candidacy on Sunday as part of a convincing 56-19 victory over the Miami Dolphins. Now, mind you, we talked about this last week, John. Lamar Jackson doesn't have like the sexiest stats in the National Football League, but here's the deal. He's the best player on the best team in the league. 18 for 21 passing on Sunday, 321 yards, 5 passing touchdowns with 6 rushes for 35 yards. Shout out Bill Polian for being a moron, forever thinking Jackson should move to wide receiver. I say that, John, because if Lamar Jackson does win his second MVP this year, which at this point he is the favorite to do. Mm-hmm. He'd become the youngest player in the Super Bowl era to win 2 MVPs because he turns 27 on the final day of the regular season. He'd be a handful of days younger than Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Jim Brown did it earlier, but that was not the Super Bowl era. But get this, though. If Lamar Jackson wins his second MVP this season, he would become the 11th quarterback all time to win 2 MVP awards, which would get Canton's attention and should get Canton's attention because of those 11 players, 7 are already in the Hall of Fame. 1 eligible in 2028. That's Tom Brady. The other 2 active players, Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. So you're looking at 10, if he wins, 10 of 11 quarterbacks with 2 MVP awards would be in the Hall of Fame at some point in time. I mean, or locks for the Hall of Fame. So you'd have to think that he is at least, you're having that conversation and it's lasting more than a few minutes.
And if he becomes the first quarterback, I think in his draft class to win a Super Bowl, you're putting him up there already. And what's crazy to me is that I feel like Lamar Jackson's been around forever and he's still so young.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's wild to me how wrong people were about
been his
Lamar.
thing. That's always been his thing. Is he's always been the youngest to do it. I mean, I believe he was one of the younger players to win the Heisman. I mean, I've got Oregon and Liberty on right now, watching Oregon completely clap Liberty's cheeks here, 24-6, just about 2 minutes to the half.
Absolutely,
as expected. I knew that was going to happen. But Bo Nix, I mean, he's like 37 years old right now. So there are players who are coming into the draft this year that will slot in. I mean, they won't be 27 years old, but they'll slot in around some older than some of the younger players in the National Football League at quarterback. So again, Lamar Jackson's been around a while, been doing it for a while. He's in the same draft class as Josh Allen, same draft class as Sam Darnold, obviously.
Baker Mayfield, who's had a career resurgence this year in Tampa Bay. So again, looking at it, I mean, he's really good. He's really good. He doesn't get a lot of attention because, well, primarily Western New York. The Bills are doing so great, but
not even that, man. I don't think Lamar Jackson gets enough credit because of that defense in Baltimore. Don't get me wrong. That defense in Baltimore, stifling. But here's the deal. You need someone to be able to run that offense, and he has run that offense incredibly well.
Magnificently. Absolutely. And it would be well deserved. I think in my book, for my money, he's the MVP.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Unless Josh Allen throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns next week, 5 total touchdowns next week, or throws for 3, runs for 100. I can't. Josh Allen would need to have an unbelievably explosive performance next week to even get in the conversation. Because I think Lamar Jackson having that kind of game against that level of team, it's over. It's over.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Looking ahead, if the season ended today, which it's close, but it's not yet today, Buffalo would be the 6th seed in the AFC. They have a 95% chance of making the playoffs per New York Times, based on roughly 80,000 simulations, up from 90% last week. They got help from Kansas City, but did not get help from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But perspective is always important. The New York Times had Buffalo at a 14% chance 5 weeks ago. That was sent over to me after I already put it in the podcast from our intern, Chris Downey, who Chris says hello to you, John.
Oh, hi, Chris.
At some point, I'm just going to make him like a legit fake intern and we'll just have fun with it. But right now in the AFC, Baltimore's the one.
We should have him call in for a segment and provide some kind of intern thing.
You don't want that. You don't want that because
why not?
I'm gonna next week.
Would he and I go off the rails? Would it be like a Lewis kind of thing?
I think it would be more of angry man yells at cloud.
Okay, all right.
Just because I've again he's been on the podcast before. He's been one of my calls to the bullpen. I enjoy the conversations with him, but when Chris and I get together, that's the problem.
Oh, so you and Chris play the role of me and Lewis.
Chris
and
Chris is my Mr. Perez, yeah.
So I would have to play the role of Ryan Wolfe in that.
That's a true story. That's a true story. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I'm very curious. I may want to test this out. Maybe in an off-season edition of Trust the Podcast, I may want to test this out. Could I be the gap between the bridge of you and Downey there? That would be interesting.
I just got to fart and drink some beers on the podcast, and I'm gonna be good.
So you're gonna play the role of me. Clearly,
I could. Right. We both can play the role of you because I can't do the deep voice, man. You've heard it before. It's bad, but you should see Chris in my content or my text messages with Chris during the Bills games. Hilarious, just absolutely hilarious. It's like you could go back through and you can tell exactly what's happening when it's happening. A lot of fun, but
all right.
We'll have him on the podcast at some point in time. But right now in the AFC, Baltimore's the one. You've got Indianapolis going to Miami, Buffalo going to Kansas City, and Cleveland taking on Jacksonville. In the NFC, San Francisco clinched the one. Baltimore also clinched the one in the AFC, sorry. You've got Green Bay going to Dallas, which Green Bay, I didn't even realize until last night that Jordan Love has 30 touchdown passes. That kid has
Jordan Love is playing really good and getting a lot of hate. I don't understand that. If you listen in right now, if you listen to the Listen In podcast with myself and Brandon is the Packers homer. But even with that, I don't understand why Jordan Love is getting the hate that he's getting.
It's the record. It's their record.
Okay.
If they look at right now, I'm just going to take a quick.
But I mean, having to be in the Packers, having to cover the Packers like I do as well. The problem with the Green Bay Packers is not their offense. I mean, their offense is young. Don't get me wrong, but it's really centered around their defense, which their coordinator, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He also coordinated such great teams as the 0-16 Detroit Lions,
Mr. John. John.
Yes.
They lost to the Falcons by 1. They lost to the Broncos by 2. They lost to the Giants by 2. Again, they lost to the Steelers by 4. You turn any of those around, say that they're 10-6. The conversation's different.
Yes, it's different. It's different, but they're centering. I feel like they're centering the issue. They're centering it around the wrong person. You got to remember Jordan Love. This is his first full season as a starter, and in his first full season as a starter, he's got 3,843 passing yards, 30 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. I don't know how it could get much better. Like it could get much better, I'm sure, but it certainly is not the worst.
Let's look at this really quick. Of those 11 interceptions, let's say 1, 2, 5, 7, 8 of those came between they played New Orleans, Detroit, the Raiders, Denver, Minnesota. So that came within a 5-week stretch, the 3rd to 7 weeks of the season. Since then, Jordan Love has 3 interceptions since we'll say 11-5. So that's 1, 2. I clicked on the wrong button. Hold on a second.
Yeah, so he had two against Pittsburgh and one against
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last 9 games, he's got 3 interceptions.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's quite the turnaround for someone.
What would you expect from Jordan Love with on a team that has the coach is very good? I thought early in the year that you may have just been good because of Aaron Rodgers. It's turned around. Give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
but you've had injuries at running back. Mm-hmm. Your leading wide receiver is, no offense to these guys, but Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and Dontavion Wicks, and an injured Christian Watson.
Mm-hmm.
No offense, John.
Yeah,
but if who?
Right? No, I get that. Their problem has been their defense. It's their defense. I follow Packers Twitter and all that stuff too. The Packers nation is hammering on the defense, which is justifiable because of the way that they've performed. I'm talking optically outside of Wisconsin. For some reason or another, they're throwing shade on Jordan Love. Jordan Love can't play football. Jordan Love's not the quarterback that the Packers need. They don't watch, whatever.
Either they have the expectations are too high. They want him to be Aaron Rodgers, or simply, John, they don't watch the game.
That's what I'm thinking, is they don't watch the game, because anybody with a pair of eyes, hell, even with one eye working, would be able to tell you it's that freaking defense and it's that coordinator, and that dude needs to go.
You know what eye they're looking through, John? Their brown eye. That's why they're stupid. Stupid.
That's fair. That's stupid with a T.
Yeah, there's my John impression. Week 18, John, big matchups. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore on Saturday at 4:30. Pittsburgh gets in with a wild card berth with a win and a Buffalo or Jacksonville loss. Baltimore, nothing to play for. That's going to be interesting. Also, Saturday at 8:15, Houston versus Indianapolis. This one boils down to a win, and you're in for both teams. If Jacksonville loses on Sunday, the winner of this game also wins the AFC South, which brings me to the final regular season game of the 2023 NFL season. Week 18, Buffalo Bills at Miami Dolphins. John, kickoff Sunday, January 7th, 8:20 p.m. on NBC, Hard Rock Stadium. Miami is 11-5, 7-1 at home, 1 win this season against a team with a winning record. They have a .352 strength of victory, the worst in the National Football League among 16 playoff teams. John, the only team that Miami has beaten this year, if I'm correct, at the time of the game, the only team they beat with a winning record is the Dallas Cowboys.
Let's see. Let me look. You would be correct. Yep.
They beat the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Giants, the Panthers, the Patriots again, the Raiders, the Jets, Washington, the Jets again, and then Dallas. Yeah, not good.
And then they got their ass handed to them by MVP Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
And looking here, too, really quick, just to wrap this up fast. Winner clinches the AFC East. Miami's already locked in the playoffs no matter the outcome. Again, with a loss, Buffalo would need a Pittsburgh or Jacksonville loss to make the playoffs. Miami, the injury bug is biting hard. They lost linebacker Bradley Chubb, who has 11 sacks this season, a galaxy brain decision. He was playing in garbage time, 3:05 left in the fourth in their 56-19 loss. Mike McDaniel already said, I wish I had a time machine to go back and take him out. He tore his ACL out for the season and might be out for quite a while, because obviously tearing your ACL on the final day of December takes a while to come back from. Cornerback Xavier Howard left the game with a foot injury, did not return after being carted off. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa left the game with a, quote, left shoulder issue, did not return to the game, but said post-game his shoulder was just, quote, sore, but walking off the field did not look very good. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle missed the game with a high ankle sprain. Running back Raheem Mostert missed the game with knee and ankle injuries. Matchup predictor, we have 54.3% of America believing Buffalo will defeat Miami. That's according to ESPN Analytics. And John, I got no reason to think otherwise. We've been saying it for weeks. We've been saying it for months now, really. Just win, baby. Doesn't matter how you do it.
Absolutely.
Just do it. Get into the playoffs, because here's the thing, too. If Buffalo wins and they get the division, guess what?
They have a home game.
Aside from Baltimore, the AFC goes through Buffalo. They will be the 2 seed in the AFC.
How incredibly crazy
5 weeks ago being at 14% chance of making the playoffs.
Right.
They win this game. They're the 2 seed. And again, aside from the AFC Championship game taking place in Baltimore,
assuming that happens,
it could go through Buffalo.
It could. It very well could. And that's insane to me. And I'm going to be among the 54.3%. I just don't believe in Miami enough to beat Buffalo here. I think Buffalo wins by less than 60.
It ain't going to be easy. It's going to be tough. It ain't going to be easy. I think Mike McDaniel is a smart head coach, good head coach. But in situations like this, Sean McDermott tends to collapse. He tends to freak out. He tends to, blitz a ton, whatever. But the Buffalo Bills have been playing the Buffalo Bills have been so hot, despite the fact that they have not been playing to the best of their ability.
Yeah, I would agree. The stars are in alignment, man. I'm telling you, it could happen.
This past game was the first time in a long time we've seen the Buffalo Bills this season have the defense win them a game. Mm-hmm. So coming off of that performance, going into knowing all you got to do is win.
Yep. Just win.
I've seen a version of this Buffalo Bills team lose to the Kansas City Chiefs in what is arguably the game of our lifetime.
Yes.
I have no reason. Homer hat aside, Buffalo Bills fan aside, I've got no reason to bet against the Buffalo Bills in this game. And I'm thinking we're looking at the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East. I
feel like that too. But hey, what does Boomer have to say about that?
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
And Boomer's not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
John, I am ready for an electric week ahead of takes, of football, of everything. We've got all of the games taking place before Sunday night. We will know if the Buffalo Bills need to, because here's the thing too. If everything goes against Buffalo, it's also you either win and you're in, or you lose and you're out completely. So that's
absolutely.
That, in my opinion, that's the most likely scenario with how Pittsburgh has been playing on revitalized football under Mason Rudolph, which is a sentence I never thought I would utter in my lifetime.
What a weird season, man.
Such a strange year, but
yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you this, Buffalo. I'm not to put any more pressure on you guys. I know you guys are game planning, preparing for the division matchup on Sunday night. Let me just add one more little thing to that. No additional pressure. Win, and the Trust the Podcast season continues. Lose, and next week is our season finale.
Yeah. No nothing more needs to be said than that. No pressure, but we don't want to. And look at with how the season has gone, John. I don't want to end. I want to keep going.
We can always flip to BLTD's airwaves. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, we could do that, but let's keep it going here.
Because I do want your take. I do want your take eventually on the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh hell yeah, I'm ready for that, my man. We're talking. We're working on some things. We're getting some things together for the BLTD podcast. But for now, John, for John Cimino, I am Ryan Wolfe. As always, we are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
We'll catch you same time, same place next week. As always, go Bills.
Ciao, ciao, y'all.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.